we have Tamika Lacluse, and I apologize if I butcher your name. I'm going to give you the opportunity to say it correctly next, who's running for the American River Flood Control District. You'll have from 2:40 until 2:55. That's the time period we're giving you. I'll give you time to give yourself a 3 to 4 minute intro, and then we have a bunch of questions we'd like to ask you.
Okay.
So, turn it over to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Tamika Lacluse. I live here in Sacramento, so I'm happy to see some of my friends and colleagues and neighbors who are part of this movement. I'm running for the American River Flood Control Board, which I was appointed to last year. And part of my story in why I wanted to join the flood control board is because I remember living in these flood zones. I remember not being able to go to school because our streets were flooded in North Highlands. I remember not being able to go to school because our streets were flooded in South Natomas, which is a huge floodplain. And so I wanted to bring some of that to the flood board because I didn't want other kids to have those experiences. Flood control is really important. We know that we're overdue. We know that that the 1,000-year flood is upon our doorsteps, and it is imperative that we are doing everything in our power at the community level to make sure that we are prepared, right? I remember filling sandbags, for my friends who were living along rivers and along levees. So I wanted to bring my experience in my community, my experience as a child living in flood zones, to the flood board to really make some change. But when I got on, I realized that part of the conversation that I wasn't linking, because as a community person, in Oak Park, I ran the neighborhood association. We advocated for affordable housing in our communities, not gentrifying us out of our community. And so housing, I had housing over under that hat, and then community organizing under that hat. And then I had flood control kind of over here. But once I got on, I realized housing and flood control, those are conversations that need to be happening simultaneously. Most of the work and most of the conversations that we have at our board meetings are directed to housing, because we know that the folks who are living on the river, the folks who are living along the river, folks who recreate along the river, everybody is affected by flood control, but the most affected people are the houseless folks. So that's what I really want to champion my next term. I want to make housing part of the conversation, like pro-housing, like let's build more, let's be better advocates. I want that to be a part of the flood control conversation moving forward. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Your connection seems to be a little bit wibbly. So if you'd like to turn off your video, we would still love to hear you clearly. We were able to hear everything, but just okay.
Just checking on my things. We've been having some internet issues, so.
Yeah, I know the
feeling. So you said video off?
Yeah, video off might make the connection a little more stable. Okay, so all right. Yeah. We'll get into some questions here, and again, a reminder, we have about 10 minutes left. So you mentioned that you grew up in Sacramento and have experienced flooding here. So the first question we have is, Sacramento is more vulnerable to catastrophic flooding than any other major city in the United States, except for New Orleans. How do you plan to address making sure that residents, especially those in Black and Brown communities, are prepared for the risk of a major flood? And I think I'd like to include in there, because you're championing this, those who are unhomed.
Yes, thank you for that. So I am the only board member. First of all, I'm the first African-American board member. I'm the first Black woman board member, trustee to the flood control district. But I'm also the only person who lives in an high-risk, underserved area. I live in Del Paso Heights. I came from Oak Park prior. And so Del Paso Heights is a community that needs more outreach. It needs a community person who cares about them, lives here. I live here 2 blocks from Arcade Creek. Not only my voice on the board, but being connected with my neighbors, talking with them. Anytime I have the opportunity to tell people the importance of flood control, I take it because it's so important. We're at such a vulnerable time, all of us. We can't afford more evictions. We can't afford more people losing their homes to anything at this point. We are in a critical phase that really will take all of us, and it'll take my community, it'll take the River Park community, it'll take Land Park community, it'll take all of us. But historically, we know that communities like mine have not been prioritized when it comes to flood control, when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to outreach, when it comes to true community engagement. And so that is what I'm committed to.
Great. Thank you for addressing that. As you might know, Sacramento Sunrise, well, Sunrise in general, is very focused on the Green New Deal, which has a lot of different aspects. But how can we use investments in flood resilience as a way to create quality jobs and advance the Green New Deal, i.e. planting trees, ecological restoration, home retrofitting, that sort of thing?
Well, and yeah, and even just in the maintenance of levees, making sure that we are using equipment that's not adding, to the greenhouse emissions. We need to make sure that we are replacing plants that need to be removed with drought-tolerant native plants. We need to make sure, but I think additionally, our levee system is pretty expansive. There's such an opportunity to create more internships, more partnerships, more trainings in how to take care of this critical infrastructure. I think that part of our job on flood control is to foster that, is to prioritize that with every policy, is to keep making sure that we are asking, hey, is there a way that we can make sure that this is sustainable, not just, for now, but we gotta think long-term. So that's just kind of where I am.
Okay, great.
I don't know, flood control, like my husband works on houses. I like levees.
That's great. We definitely want someone who likes to work on levees. So I'm going to do another time check. We've got 5 minutes left for you, and I would like to give you around 30 seconds at the end so that you can kind of make a closing statement. So until then, I'll give you a couple more questions. So do you agree with using conservation easements to help protect more edges and banks of the river?
Conservation easements. I'm sorry, can you please explain? Can you please explain what you mean?
Yeah, Shay, did you write this question, and would you like to jump in to speak on this?
Yeah, I did write this question. So are you asking for
I'm looking for some more information
about conservation easements?
I'm not familiar. I'm sorry.
Oh, so conservation easements are particularly like designating or zoning land, whether that means buying it back from the original owners or maybe just zoning current county land. It's specific to conservation.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. Oh. And so, so with conservation easements, essentially, and this is a problem I think that we've come up with quite a few times. Back a long time ago, when people were keeping paper records, some folks who had purchased, properties along the levees had really taken assumed ownership of the levee, and that is something that we are aware of, and we are trying to work with our community members as much as possible, because the practices that people think are great for themselves have been detrimental to our system, and to our ability, exactly, and to our ability to be able to continually inspect and repair and monitor our levees. There's folks, I mean, there's changes, people have made years ago, whether it's adding are those called docks, adding a dock from their house or from the levee, making it into their own garden with really invasive plants. And it's definitely something I support, and I will work with my board to continue to support, making sure that everything that we do is in the name of conservation and forward thinking, and making sure that everything that we are able to enjoy now, that our 7 generations beyond us can enjoy too.
Great. So I think this is going to be the last question before we give you that 30 seconds to wrap up. Not that past question, this next question. How will you work with and get feedback from partners like community organizations, local, state, and federal agencies?
Yes, so as you can tell, I'm a talker. And so anybody that will listen to my plan and jump in with me on how to move forward with prioritizing the houseless people on the levees, I talk to. And I am like, look, this is what we got to do. This is what we got to bring on. That is my passion. That is what I want to do. And so with that, I talk to anybody who is of influence, anybody who will take this idea that's not, it's not a wild idea to prioritize, housing people and truly make housing a right. We were visiting friends in Paris, and they said that they heard about our numbers, and they said that is unacceptable, like just unacceptable. And that's the kind of, sorry, I just hit my desk. That's the kind of advocacy we need. We need it to be unacceptable. So that means it's unacceptable to silo. It's unacceptable to leave folks out. It's unacceptable not to include community. It's unacceptable to be silent. And so that's where I want us to get, and I want us to work together. I do believe that this is something that we have to do across jurisdictions, across departments, across communities. I think this is something that is a priority. I know it's a priority for me. I think it's a priority for our housing advocates, and I hope that it can be more of a priority for my other elected officials at various levels, from our special districts to the state.
Great, and we only have about 20 seconds left, so if you want to give yourself a closing statement, this is the time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Sunrise Sacramento. In my heart, I think of you as the sunshine people. I really want to bring sunshine, to the flood board. I want that vibrance. I want that excitement there. I want everybody to know the importance and to be invested. I am the first Black woman, but I am not going to be the last. We need every community represented. We are fighting for by district elections. I am looking so forward to tackling and prioritizing our houseless folks on the river. And I hope to get your endorsement as well as your votes, because you're my folks.
Thank you so much for being here, Tamika. Really appreciate it. Again, Tamika, and can you say your last name for me?
Lecluse, you did a good job.
Okay, excellent. Tamika Lecluse, who's running for American River Flood Control District. And now we're going to take you off the call because that's what we've been doing for all the other candidates. Thank you so much for being here.
Stay safe.
Okay, next up we have